believe it's the most powerful series I've yet taught. The secret that wasn't the secret. Unleash your manifesting superpower. Now, there are still a few seats available for this 5-week study, and I've priced the class much lower than the usual legendary membership because this is it's a true life changer for anyone who has made the decision to absolutely up-level their lives. But just because it's a nice price, 2 payments of $4.99, this course is definitely not for beginners. I mean, I suggest that you have a very sound foundation in law of attraction and science of mind. Science of mind being that is understanding how your conscious mind works with your subconscious mind to create the same results in your life or create the new results in your life. Because we're taking off from there to new worlds and new civilizations of your mind. But I really encourage you to look into the class quickly because it starts next Tuesday, or send the information about this course to someone in your world who keeps trying and trying and trying and trying to improve their lives, but they keep, slipping off the bubble. You can find all of the information at dianearmitage.com/secret. Now, each time I have clients heading into a new course, I always want to remind them about what Bob Proctor used to teach, the difference between A, B, and C goals. Now, I've taught this in many classes and YouTube videos along the way. In fact, it's detailed quite nicely in my new LEAP online course. But I want to touch on this briefly here as I lead up into today's legendary teaching moment. So A, B, and C goals. Here's the quick difference. You can set A goals. This is where most people land in their goal making. A goals are basically goals that you've achieved before. Now you've taken it up a teeny line, little notch, and you say it's a goal, but it's really more like a to-do list or a shopping list. You may have this car, now you want that car. You have this house, now you want that house. The thing is, you've purchased a car before, you've purchased a house before. It's not something you haven't done before. It's not something you haven't done before in some way, shape, or fashion. That's what we call A goals. B goals are a little bit of a stretch, but they're more like a stretch like this. Your arm comes up and it stops like here. A B goal is where you think, okay, this is my goal, but I think I've got resources that can really help me put it together. For instance, you want to buy a house, you're in a $300,000 house, you want a $400,000 house, you don't have all the down payments, so you start thinking about the how. Well, I could pull some money out of the stock market, I can look at my IRA, I can probably borrow money from dad's retirement because that's due to me when they pass. You're starting to put all the pieces together. So you're not exactly sure how you're going to put it all together, but you're pretty sure you've got some resources that you can tap into. Most people, when they make any goals at all in their lives, and a lot of people don't even make goals, but when they make goals, they stay at that A and B level. They stay at the A and B level. It's safe. It doesn't change your life that much. It may make you a little happier. It may make you feel a little more successful, but on the frequency of where you live, you're here. A is like a squeak here, and B is like here. Now, C goals, wow, that looks like it's way up there. That's the big thing that your spirit keeps tapping on you to do. That's the big whammy goal that every time you think about it makes your hair kind of stand on end. Your spirit is saying, come on, come on, come on, let's do this thing. We're big enough to do this thing. We have enough power to do it. We have all the support to do it. Let's jump on it. Let's jump on it. Let's jump on it. And you look at that C goal and you think, oh my, it's so far away. Now, once you understand how supportive all of this is around you, all of the laws of the universe around you, that it isn't all me power that rolls the big C goal changes into reality, well, then things begin to change. Then you begin to understand that you can create your life in a certain way that gets you to that C goal. And it's not anywhere close to being all the way up there. But right now it feels big because you've never done it before. You never come close to doing this thing before. You don't even know how you got the idea. But before you skitter away from actually setting a C goal in the course of this program, I want to give you a much bigger idea to help you understand the process of setting goals that truly matters. Now, this concept here can run really deep in a matter of seconds. So trust me when I say that we'll come back around to this again. I just want to give you the high points here. Remember, we're talking about energy, right? Energy just is. Albert Einstein, right? Everything is energy. Energy is always in motion. Energy moves. Whenever you have an A goal, a B goal, or a C goal, it's all about energy, right? So when you think about this, energy is spirit. Spirit is energy. Energy, ether, universe. Everything is spiritual energy. It's up here in the ether, the intuition, the imagination. Any new thought is spiritual in nature. Any new thought is spiritual in nature. I'm not talking spiritual, religious spiritual. I'm not talking spiritual, any kind of dogma or any kind of rituals that people may follow. I'm saying it is spiritual in nature. It is energetic. It is in the ether. Thought is not initially a thing. Thought exists in the ether. It's in the spiritual energetic realm. This is where it's germinated. Now, remember the stick person analogy that I often refer to, that Bob Proctor used to teach from all the time. You've got your stick person with the head, you've got the conscious mind up top, you've got the subconscious mind here. The conscious mind is taking in all these different thoughts from the ether. It's collecting and it's choosing. It's collecting and it's choosing. And as it decides on what's true, it moves that truth into the subconscious mind. Subconscious mind cannot reject, it can only accept. And so whatever that thought of truth comes in, the subconscious mind is the activator. It's the thing in charge of creating the reality from the thought, right? So your conscious mind is collecting all this thought from all sorts of reference points. It's busy taking in all these thoughts. Your thoughts, your spouse's thoughts, your kids' thoughts, all of your senses are giving you conscious thought too. You can see, hear, smell, taste, touch. You are a receptive, energetic center. Your conscious mind is constantly sorting through these thoughts, all of these different reference points. So even when the thought may come sideways from another person's thought, even if it's not a fit for where you want to go in your life, remember that all thought is originally germinated by spirit. That's where it starts. It's the seed of an idea, an energetic inspiration. It's also important to understand that spirit, thought, always manifests into matter, form. Thought manifests into form. Thought manifests into matter. No one can argue with this. It's the way it's been since the beginning of time. Spirit, thought, always manifests into spirit, form, matter. It simply is following the universal law of polarity. Spirit, thought, will always manifest into physical reality, whether it's a reality you want to have in your life or not. Now, here's the other thing that's so important to understand about spirit. The only limit placed on spirit is the limit placed on the form through which it flows. I'm going to give you a second to take in that concept because it's a big concept. The only limit placed on spirit, energetic spirit, thought, is the limit placed on the form through which it flows. Spirit energy never sets the limits. We do. We do. Now, this doesn't mean that we consciously do it. Take, for example, the illumination of a room. Back in the day, before electricity was discovered, we relied on candlelight. While it's helpful in dispelling the darkness, the illumination of this room is limited to the candle's ability to light the room. The candle is the form. The energy came through that form. When the light bulb was discovered, there were a lot of people who fought the light bulb initially because they said, oh no, we're good. We're good with our lanterns, our little hurricane lamps, our candles. We've got our candlelight. We don't need a light bulb. When the light bulb was invented and began to be adapted finally, it offered a much greater ability to dispel the darkness in any given room, right? We achieved a new level of consciousness that was no longer limited to candlelight. Remember, it's not about the energy that's keeping anyone's world smaller than they may like. It's about the consciousness. It's about the consciousness, the awareness, the form in which the energy is allowed to flow through. Eventually, the light bulb became a fluorescent strip, and then it became a beacon, a powerful beacon, and lighthouses everywhere that ships could see from miles away. Now, remember, back in the day, they didn't have beacons and lighthouses. They had lanterns. Sometimes they would color the lanterns so that the ships knew where and how they were moving down along these channels. In Dana Point, right next to Laguna Beach, all the streets are named Green Lantern, Ruby Lantern, Violet Lantern, Blue Lantern, because that's where the lanterns were poised in the lighthouses for the ships moving down the channel. They knew where they needed to move into the port from this particular lantern port that they needed to be at. Now, that changed significantly when the lighthouses took over with beacons to point the way to the port, and everything was illuminated. Everything changed. Now, illumination lights the way for space shuttles navigating their way to the moon. It illuminates a world on Mars to all of us through the eye of one small little roving robot with this huge spotlight beacon looking at the surface of Mars. It's unbelievable. The ability for energy to be illuminated has never changed. It was our consciousness that created the change. Now, how does this work for you? By understanding this. The ability for illumination has always been here since the beginning of time. It has simply flowed through the form that you have allowed. Illumination is spirit energy. A thought is not yet a thing. It is funneled into a pathway that limits or expands. It is allowed to an extent. And what we're working on here is allowing the larger extent because we can. It's about our consciousness. Our consciousness. Its original essence never changes because it is limitless abundance. From there, it is either given the ability to freely expand or it is squeezed into confines, limited in some way. Now, how does this apply to the goals you set for yourself? When an individual gets an idea, instead of recognizing it as the beautiful, limitless spirit energy that it is, this person may be inclined to limit that energy by confining or restricting its ability to form itself into reality. Instead of allowing the thought to expand, it's stuffed into already existing flow points or grooves of your life. Like I've talked about before, grooves of the record album, the way you've lived your life, the way you've done your job, the way you've handled your career, the way you've handled your relationships. With these grooves of the record album where your life may largely remain unexpressed. And what if you chose to let the thought expand and flow instead? Now, let me say it again, it certainly won't be the last time. You have limitless, endless spirit in you. Energy flowing to and through you at all times. When you are able to recognize its sheer abundance and power, and when you give it access to your life without any hindrance, you can actually shape this limitless energy into any reality you choose. Any new reality you choose. Wallace Wattles wrote an entire book about it, The Science of Getting Rich. You're taking the thought from the ether, molding it into the life that you choose because you have the spirit energy to do it. It is energy working with your spiritual energy, the energy of you. It's all about you giving it room. It's all about you opening up the flow. Instead of thinking of a babbling little stream, think of Niagara Falls. If you've been thinking of the A or B goal, think of the C goal. Instead of thinking of a candle in a dark room, think of the space shuttle illuminating its path as it lands on the moon. What kind of a seagull was that? It was the same seagull that Thomas Edison had when he tried thousands and thousands of times to create the light bulb so that we could extinguish the candle and create more illumination in our lives. That was a seagull. But then the seagull changed. Then it became the beacon. Then it became the fluorescent. Then it became the landing lights for the space shuttle on the moon. Why? Not because the energy changed, because our consciousness changed. So instead of thinking that this big idea of yours needs to fit into this tiny little box of your existing reality, the one that you currently know, or allowing other people to tell you it belongs in a tiny little box, think of what could happen if you didn't box it at all. This is where I want you to start. I want you to begin to evaluate the goals you've created for your life with this new understanding of how spirit energy really works. Are you giving it room to expand? Or are you stuffing it into the cracks and creases of your already existent life and hoping that somehow it will sprout like a flower in the middle of a concrete crack? Focus on those C goals. Those ideas that are drifting down that seem like big whammy seagulls are not a mistake. These seagulls originate from spirit energy before we try to limit their flow. Vernon Howard wrote one of the most amazing books ever, The Mystic Path to Cosmic Power. And I'm going to read just a little bit of it here for you. He says, it's time to step into the spirit of you, that knowing, genuine self that is already well aware of who you really are, how powerful you are as an energetic being. You begin to see what is genuinely good for you, as well as the steps to take. You live more and more from your true self, in which there is already self-victory, self-knowledge. It's just as simple as that. If I know and act on my truth, I am free of my pains and delays. If I realize that no one can really hurt me, no one hurts me. If I actually see that in spite of a terrified imagination, all is well with myself, my terrified imagination loses power to terrify me. To see that we suffer because of blurred vision toward life is no reason for despair. It is a cause for a joyful mental leap. As Price Pritchett would say, quantum leap. Now, knowing what is false, we have made room for what is true, our truth. This is how we continue to express and expand our own spirit. And this is how we express and expand our own life. And I encourage you to do the same. Stop stopping the flow, my friends. Allow that spirit power of energetic thought to roll with you, and everything will change.